Hi doers! I recently met Jonas, who is an agency owner based in Berlin. And what sparked my interest is his agency focuses only on native advertising. So I sat down and interviewed him about starting, growing, and maintaining his business. So enjoy the podcast.
My simple first question is who you are and what do you do?
Short answer is I'm Jonas. I'm a Swedish person who's been living in Berlin for coming up on 9 years. I'm a small business owner, run a native advertising agency, so focusing specifically on digital advertising on platforms like Outbrain, Taboola, and Yahoo. And I think short background is just studied business originally back in Sweden, moved down, joined a few startups here in Berlin, had a few success cases where we managed to scale company, grow the team, and since 2018, I've been working kind of independently, initially as a consultant and freelancer on digital marketing topics, and then kind of growing the team around the company that is now called Joinative.
How did you get the idea to start your agency? What was the spark inside you?
Yeah, I didn't really want to start an agency initially. So I had a team of 14 people at my last company where I was hired, and we did a lot of native advertising, and we worked with a few other platforms as well, worked with a few other kind of means of advertising. And I just saw that there are huge pain points in working with these kind of platforms, that they're not as well optimized as like working with Google, as working with Facebook was at the time. So we had a lot of manual processes and a lot of things that I'm embarrassed having to force my team to do every day, like downloading reports, sending them over to our BI department and the like. So initially, like when I started going independently, I honestly just didn't know what to do. I had some idea in the back of my head that it would be nice to work on a platform that just takes away a lot of this manual work, that kind of simplifies working across multiple platforms, specifically for native advertising, but also not knowing exactly how I would go about that, not having too big of a technical background, just kind of learning a little bit of coding myself. I decided to just start freelancing on performance marketing topic, and then kind of as a hobby project on the side, start building some automations, start working towards this platform I had in my mind. I then was freelancing on the topics. I realized as well that there's a big gap overall on native advertising, and there's so many experts out there that do a really good job, that really know how to get good performance out of Facebook and Google, and those platforms are extremely optimized as well. And then when it comes to native advertising, it's just a big lack of experience. People don't know how to approach that differently in order to get results. So pretty early on, I saw that this is actually somewhere where I have a competitive edge, where I know something that a lot of people don't know, where I've seen success cases of how you get native advertising to work and how to approach that differently. So I kind of understood, okay, there is something to do in this space. There is a gap in this space. And at that point, I also decided it was time to take in a developer to help me build this platform that I had in my mind. So it was kind of, we consult and maybe have a small agency part where we run campaigns for companies on native advertising. But our real business idea is this platform that we build out and build it out to be a SaaS product. It turned out, as I tried to talk to a lot of people, I did a lot of cold outreach. I jumped on a lot of calls with different kind of decision makers who are working with performance marketing, who are working towards those kind of channels overall, and started demoing like the small features that we had, a few features of our platform. And the feedback I got back was mainly like kind of lack of interest. People found it interesting, but it just didn't match where they were at all. So the initial features we had on the platforms was a lot about data management, the reporting, and like harmonization across platforms, which served people who already had success on native advertising, who was already running medium-sized campaigns. And almost advertisers that we were talking to, they were not there yet. They were more at the stage. We ran our first campaigns. They were awful, and we don't know how to do it differently. This platform won't help us do it differently. So as we were bootstrapped and kind of running out of cash because paying a developer is not for free, we kind of needed to reshift the gear a little bit, and then just decided to focus more on building out the agency part, where we saw that there was an interest, where we actually had clients coming in and revenue growing, and then less focus on the tech part. And then that has just like over the last 2 years grown more and more into that direction, that this is where we've seen that companies have come in and asked us like, hey, can you please help us do this? And also we've seen that with the consulting that we're doing as well, which is also like a big part of what we wanted to do, just help tell people how to do it differently. That has also been a big source of our agency clients, where we train people, we train individual people or teams on how to do native advertising, but quite a few of them also just say it like, okay, cool, we have a much better understanding now, but we don't have the time and capacity to spend or dedicate to native advertising specifically. Can you help us set up and run the campaigns? So it kind of grew organically, kind of by following just where we saw the interest into becoming an agency, which was never the intention to begin with.
Understand. So can you explain what it is, native advertising?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I do a little else every day then. So native advertising, the term itself means any kind of advertising that blends into the space around it. So it looks like it belongs where it is. So this, in its broadest term, include things like paid Google ads. It includes ads you see on Facebook because they look like organic posts that a friend or so influencer has made around it. But the term has kind of been hijacked by a few platforms. I think I mentioned some of them previously, where it's now, when you talk about native advertising, it's more specifically about what you often see at the end of a news article. So you go to a publisher, you read an article, and then at the end you might also be interested in, or like other article recommendations to read. And then somewhere between like a third to 50-60% of those are sponsored ads. And native advertising then, I mean, it's basically made to mimic and look like the news article suggestions around it, which is why it's being referred to native advertising. And then you work with a few platforms that basically take your assets, mainly just copy and image, and then adapt it so that it fits the environment around it.
What do you think, which platform is right now the best target with your services?
So it depends a little bit. The market has gone through a few rounds of consolidations. So when I started doing it, I think we're working with between 10 and 15 different platforms. Now we're working between 2 to 4 different platforms. So over time, there's been mergers, there's been acquisitions. So the two most important platforms by far, and the biggest part of where we spend our time and our energy and our ad spend, is Taboola and Outbrain. These are also the most popular ones. So in terms of getting campaigns that work on them, it's a very good go-to place to start out, but it's also less of a secret, less of a well-known secret, like a secret where this is where everyone goes when they try to do native advertising, which could mean that you could get cheaper traffic and potentially then just better return on ad spend from other platforms, but they are a bit less optimized. They're working a little bit worse in terms of automatic optimizations. So you need to know to a better extent what you're doing as you work with those platforms as well.
Got it. I would be maybe curious, how did you get your first clients? I know you touched the point just on the surface. Maybe what was the strategy you acquired those clients?
I was basically working every angle that I had. So I had the benefit of having worked at a few startups and built out a bit of a personal or professional network. So the moment I decided to stop being employed, start freelancing, start consulting, I just started reaching out to people that I had some kind of professional relationship with, and just told them that, hey, this is what I'm doing. Would be great to like grab a coffee. Would be great to just have a like lunch or something and just catch up, not with the intention of selling anything, but just kind of highlighting that this is what I'm doing at the moment. Yeah, and then just kind of having a genuine catch up. And I think a lot of what happened then, which I didn't necessarily expect, was people were really helpful, right? They were really supportive. They kind of got invested to some extent in my success. So they started looking around for me. They basically checked in their networks if there's something that could be relevant. And the first clients I got was basically recommendations through other people's networks. So within my professional network, but kind of second degree there. That was one source. The other source was just kind of, I think, there was two more sources that happened pretty early. The other one was like cold outreach. So just on LinkedIn, just started adding people without like this kind of weird contact request that you're getting without any message to it. just doing that to large extent. LinkedIn allowed it to do per day, searching relevant profiles, and then when people accepted, I kind of wrote them and like talked specifically, like try to get a call on them to just generally ask, like, how are you doing native advertising? Are you not doing native advertising? What are the reasons for that? And just kind of understand a little bit better of, get other viewpoints on it, but also kind of build a real contact there, and then see if there's any way we could support them. And then the last part was actually just allowing myself to be found, which was we pretty early on started building a website. It's not easy to get a website to rank and actually get traffic on it. So that nothing happened there for quite a long time. Even if we started building like links to it, we started seeing traffic, and we like build out our content and articles on it. Things coming from that happened much later. But also things like just updating my LinkedIn profile in this, making sure that was more geared to what I was actually selling, and what people actually might search for. That allowed me in some case to be found. And I think that 2 early clients as well, they basically just searched on LinkedIn for native advertising, and I've updated my profile to like very heavily feature native advertising in the beginning of it, which was also just a way to be found there. But that was still like within, in that case, Berlin, and within like second or third degree connections.
That's interesting, because 2 days ago I was listening Neil Patel podcast. There was the question, what is the largest channel which you acquire new clients? And he said it's word of mouth and referrals, right? This is the most powerful. And I think he said like around 70%, which is really high. And sure, SEO is powerful, as you say. I've been working in SEO so long, but it takes time to rank, and LinkedIn is definitely excellent acquisition channel too, but nothing beats word of mouth or referrals.
Huge difference in quality of clients. The people who are working with larger budgets or representing larger companies, they generally have a different way of searching for information, acquiring information. They use, search engines like everyone else to some extent, but generally what they're doing is that they're reaching out in their network. They're basically, hey, we're looking for this, and then they either write it or they talk to people that they trust on those kind of topics, and then they get recommendations from those people. So being one of the persons or like one of the companies that are being recommended, in this case, it's like you mentioned, it's really powerful. It's how you get, in our case, our best client. Whereas the traffic that's coming through on the website is oftentimes like bootstrapped, gritty, like hustling entrepreneurs with like smaller companies, but also then oftentimes smaller budget, who have less money to invest in testing, where native advertising is just not as optimized for those kind of budgets as it is for larger budgets. So it's a completely different kind of clients that you're getting from there as well. We had a lot more clients coming from a website, but generally the best clients are coming from referrals.
You touched quality work, right? How do you balance the quality work and customer satisfaction? Some agencies, they acquire so many clients, but the quality of work is low. So how do you balance it?
I wish I had thought about this earlier on, right? It's early on, you basically just jump in every direction where you see a euro. Someone says, hey, can you do this? And you're like, sure, I'll do it. And you cannot spread yourself thin. You take on too many projects, you work for too many clients, and as a result, the quality of the work that you're delivering is also suffering. So in the beginning, you cannot be picky, right? You need to somehow support yourself. You need to build a revenue base. You need to make sure you're not losing money. But the moment where you are in a more comfortable position, you need to have a look at which kind of clients am I actually providing more value for, and as a result, they're kind of willing to pay me more for that as well, because there are huge synergies that you get by working on similar kind of projects with similar kinds of clients. So if you can adapt your kind of inflow of clients for the ones that you know that, hey, this is more likely to be successful and it's more likely to be growing into a longer term partnership, that just means that you take on less clients where you're not happy about the work that you're delivering, but also they're not happy about the results that you're giving, which also then affects the other clients that could have been more successful because we're spending too much time at other projects. It is a really, really tough balance, and we still haven't really figured it out, because you kind of always want to learn, right? And you don't know if something will work out. You don't know if testing something now with a different approach will work out. And I'm just genuinely too curious and really wanting to learn if we would have did this differently now, could it work out? So unfortunately, to a large extent, we've gotten better at filtering out things that like saying that, hey, this is not going to work, let's not start, we're both going to be disappointed. But I think we're still at a point where we, depending on our capacity, our current capacity, we might still be taking on too many projects that we shouldn't have, because rather than accepting an incoming client who is finding us some way, it would have been better to spend that time on outreach and like actively sourcing the right kind of client where we have more benefits of scale.
You mentioned previously writing articles, trying to get new clients on the website, producing content marketing. Google former CEO said like the brand is future even for Google, and Google loves brands, right? Personal brands, I mean. So what's your opinion about it? Like, is it really like the way you feel you could expand your business through your personal brand and get new clients?
Yes and no. So we found that our best clients are not necessarily seeing us when we do activities, right? We have done a lot of content collaborations, both with the like platforms, with other industry leaders, and we participated in webinars and digital conferences. And it's a bit similar to the traffic that we see coming in on our website there as well. It's often the people who said, I saw you on this thing and it would be great to have a talk, are often not who's ending up being our best kind of client afterwards. However, it is a fantastic exercise, because it even if that's not where your better clients are finding you, having those kind of trust symbols, I mean, it's basically the same as having like a 4.5 stars out of 5 thing on your website, or like a this company has been checked by this test and gotten good reviews. It's similar to that. To just say that, hey, we're part of the discussion with industry leaders. You look at here, like I'm participating in this, I'm participating in that. We get featured here, just like B2C. That is a nice to have, like a tick box. So it's not necessarily where your best clients will find you, but when your best clients find you and you're in contact with them to try to collaborate together, then it's great to just showcase that, hey, there is something that we've been doing here that indicates that we know what we're talking about.
You mentioned industry leaders, and this is actually my next question. There's a competitive edge. How do you stay ahead of all these competitors in the industry, in the market? It's moving so quickly. What's your approach?
Our approach is very early on was to specialize, right? Native advertising is a niche, and it's still a niche, even if it's a large one. So one part of it, where we saw that we could do something different than other agencies, is we can complement them. We can say that, hey, you should work with whatever agency that you have or that you found for Google Ads, for Facebook, for content, for a lot of things. You should not work with them from native, because native is not important to them. They don't know how to do native. They just have it as an add-on because it's a way for them to earn a little bit more money from a client, but they don't know how to do it and they don't spend the time to figure it out. So it was very early just saying that, hey, taking a small part of it and just saying, hey, this is where you need someone else. And that's where we kind of fit in. And then we're not the only ones specializing in native. We're obviously not the only ones who do native well. So in terms of the other things, you do need to keep a track, right? You do need to see what are other people doing. You need to have a network where you kind of get insights into how are other people approaching it. How is the industry changing in terms of what worked yesterday is obviously not what's going to work tomorrow. So what are tests that other people are doing that seems to be successful, and they're looking at scaling up. And to some extent, it's not just competition, right? It's generally the market is big enough for a lot of players. So we do collaborate and share knowledge with what could be considered some competitors in order to, it's just kind of part of networking, right? You share learnings, you share experiences, and that's a good way to make sure that you're not falling behind.
If there is client and client makes a decision between you join native agency and B agency, so what would be your persuasion to get the deal?
Yeah, so there's two benefits that we have there. One of them I kind of already mentioned. It's that the native part of the big agency is not something that they specialize in. It's not something where they focus and know how to get good results from. So A, you're just going to see better results from working with us. Then B, the second part is that in a big agency, you're getting sold to by senior people, by salespeople, by basically, depending on how big your company is and how big the contract would be, up to management of the agency. Those are not the ones who are going to be involved in your campaigns. They're going to hand it down to some seniors who are looking after some juniors who are actually doing the campaigns, who are actually doing the execution. With a small agency, who you're talking to and who you're getting an insight into how are they thinking, how are they approaching the topic, do I trust that they have a good approach, they have a good understanding of it, do I trust that they can get performance for me? Those are also the people who are involved in the execution of your campaigns. So that is a huge benefit that we're not a big team. We're 4 people, and the campaigns and the clients that we have, I've talked to all of them. I talk to all of them, if not on a weekly basis, at least on a bi-weekly basis. And I look into the campaigns and we discuss it internally. And it's not that I hand over the campaigns to someone in our team, even if the people in our team are experienced and they're obviously running and doing a big part of the work for it. Our clients can trust that it's not just being handed over and then come what may.
The cool part here, you haven't mentioned any price. That's excellent, because by the end of the day, it's not only about the price. So that's cool. So you mentioned many times your team. How big is your team and how did you get them? Or how did you find the right people? That's, I think, very interesting to know.
Yeah, so we're 4 people, myself included. The composition of the team has shifted a bit over time. Like I mentioned early on, there was a developer. Then over time, obviously, we kept working together, even as he was not an employee by us anymore, because we still had the tech parts. We still have the platform that we started to build that we're using internally. So he's not one of the 4, but he's been like in the background helping us out and just maintaining what has already been built. Him, I've worked with in 2 startups previously, so just knew personally. The other people has been not like connections of connections. So basically someone I worked with in a project previously. For one company I was freelancing for. She was also freelancing for this company, and just realizing that I need the same kind of services, I need the same kind of resources internally, and then we just talked about it, and she was happy to jump on board and do that. Then there was someone that she knew, so basically connection of a connection. And then our latest hire was also actually someone in the network of one of our clients. So it hasn't been an active recruitment process or search process in that sense. It's just similar to how we found our first clients. just talking to people, just kind of mentioning, this is what we're doing now, this is who we're looking for now. And then people just tend to like, oh, actually, I know someone who might be interested, let me put you in contact. So since we haven't been recruiting so much and we haven't been looking for so many people, that's been enough like that. Obviously, if we're looking at growing further, we will hit a wall at some point. We won't be able to find just people within our network and our extended network fast enough doing this, but so far that served us well enough.
What's your opinion about communication? How do you communicate? I think you work online, or is it a hybrid model or a virtual model? Because sometimes, in large corporations, even for example, one day you are waiting for email. but I believe, like, even when I listen again and Nate Patel, he's saying like until 30 minutes, someone must reply to me on Slack or email, because it's lifeblood, right? The communication. So what's your opinion about that?
A bit more relaxed about that, I'd say. That we are a small team, which means that generally we know everything that's going on in what the other people are doing as well, which means that we have a pretty easy time jumping in for one another and staying involved in the communication, especially external communication, and kind of cover for each other when someone's not available. But I also don't believe in the idea of being constantly available. I think that we have guidelines internally of when we're talking to clients, how quickly can they expect an answer, which is a very different thing from how quickly can they get the inquiry answered that they're looking for. So if they're looking for a summary of something, they're looking for some insights into what we've been doing. It's one thing saying that, hey, we respond quickly and we say like, hey, we received your message and we look into it and you can expect an answer by then. It's another thing saying, hey, within a certain time frame, we should have the answer to them, because the workload shifts a lot, or this vacations, that's everything. And there's kind of, we have processes where, especially onboarding new clients, are more time consuming. It means that in the phase where we're onboarding new clients or more new clients than we normally do, it's just tougher to respond promptly and to get like responses, like full responses there in a certain amount of time. So I think that you need to be able to put your phone away. You need to be able to turn your notifications off. I've done this long enough now. Like in the beginning, I was checking Slack, I was checking my email, and responding to it basically 24/7, and it was not good for my psychological health and my mental health. I had like notifications, automatic notifications sent over Slack to like alert me that, hey, this is going on with the campaigns, this and that, just at a way too aggressive rate. So in order for you to actually be able to do something, to be delivering good quality work over time, you need to have breaks as well, which is why I would say that communication is super important, especially expectation management. When can someone expect to receive something? But we don't believe in this, hey, within a certain amount of hours, we have followed up with all your inquiries and all the gotten all the data that you were looking for.
Gets motivating team is absolutely very important. This type of communication, it's like really relaxed, as you described. I wanted to ask, how do you measure your progress or success of your agency? I think this is very important. What metrics do you use to keep an eye on it, like the high level only, and see whether your business or services goes the right direction?
We have a few key performance indicators that matters for us. Obviously, it's the revenue that we're generating for ourselves being the main thing. We notice that with more clients, we're not necessarily earning more ourselves. With better clients, we are earning more ourselves. So the main metric that we have is just what is our revenue on a kind of monthly basis. How is that looking? Because that is allowing us to do everything else. We are obviously tracking like how many active clients are we working with? How many, like, how's the sales funnel looking? How many people are we in touch with that could end up becoming a new client? We are not so much looking at the average lifetime of a client. Well, what is the time that we keep them? Because what normally happens is if we make it past the test phase, we basically set things up, we test it, we see if we can get the results that the client is looking for. Then we normally work together for a long time. If we don't make it past that test phase, then it's already done, and we're not continuing working together. So basically, yeah, the average length of a client wouldn't really tell us much. We're way more focused at the moment of just what is the success rate within this testing phase, because we know that for the client where we have been delivering good results, we keep on delivering good results, and we know how to continuing improving the accounts from there. So one of our key metrics at the moment that we're looking at improving is this specific testing phase of how can we increase the chance that as we start working with a new client, we keep on working together after 3 months. Like we are reaching the results that the client was looking for, and they were happy in the way that we were working together as well.
Good. I want to go back to previous question because it popped up something in my mind. You mentioned like you set up procedures. I notice it's very critical to have SOPs. Have you created them, or is it just in your mind, in your team's minds?
Personally, I'm not the kind of person who puts a lot of weight on documentation and like and writing those things down, but it is something that has been holding us back as well. That I always felt that every client is so different that yes, there are ways that we do and run our campaigns. We have our processes, but also we have so much flexibility in them that it's just tough to write it down in a way that's detailed enough to be useful, but flexible enough to be useful, like actually realistic. Over time, we've just seen that we have not been able to challenge our own processes and improve our own processes enough to the extent that I think would have been possible had we much earlier on started documenting our processes and like clearly laying out, hey, what is our expectations around certain things? Why are we doing it like this? And what exactly are we doing here? So it's been, and in our history, it's been a lot of just in the back of our heads in kind of a shared mind of ours that kind of hoping that everyone understands it the same way. And we recently, so basically over the last 6 to 9 months, started putting everything down on paper, started making sure that we identify what are the different like phases with clients, what are the different communications we have with clients, what is the communication process that we have internally, and documenting them. Not necessarily an outspoken SOP structure, but more just identifying like what life cycle are we in with a client, and what are the things that we do there, but also and also like in terms of campaign management, in terms of our creative processes of creating assets, making sure that we just have guidelines around those.
Yes, exactly. This is the point I wanted to nail it down. Definitely, there must be guideline of this SOPs. Yes, it definitely.
I think if you would have talked to me a year and a half ago, I would have been, I would have had a different answer for you. It is with like a bit of humility and humbleness that I'm kind of agreeing with you here.
Yes, I'm talking to people and I need small agencies, and they really say the same. At the beginning is like messy, right? And then you have to put it on paper and really follow it. Yeah, and it saves time. It makes your life easier. So yeah, in the system habits you follow, and sure, it must be tweaked over time because as you mentioned, it's shifting, changing so quickly. But definitely it must be somewhere saved, written, and recorded.
Yeah, I do. Cool. I do still think that there's a time for everything, right? I think that in the beginning, you don't know which direction you're going to go in, and documenting everything and like mapping everything out is also going to be a lot of wasted effort because a lot of it is not going to turn out the way that you expect it to. You do need to find a balance in that, and I think in the beginning you do need to live a little bit with the messiness, but we were way too late on realizing that our lives don't need to be messy anymore.
Yeah, I see it this way. You need to find a system that works. Once you find it, and you found it actually in 2019, right? Was your agency established? But for example, you found it after 2 years, and since then, I mean, the system that worked, and you started documenting the procedures and guidelines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I right? Yeah. Can you discuss any lessons, maybe one of the top lessons you learned along the way while building the agency?
I think I mean, there are a lot of lessons. There's a lot of things that
Sure.
are either hard won or just kind of observations as we had this journey over the last couple of years. I think the biggest lesson for myself personally is just it's not always fun. That's definitely the case. There are a lot of things that are extremely stressful. There's a lot of times where you wonder and your mind starts racing like, hey, will we be able to stay in business? Losing this client was a huge blow to us. Or initially in the first lockdowns of the pandemic, everyone was just holding back or cutting down their marketing budget, and we're just like, okay, how will we be able to move on from here? There are a lot of like stress moments in there, and you need to find a way to like live with that and kind of move forward, and also realize that generally things are not so bad. But yeah, be prepared that there will be stressful things. There will be times where you think that, hey, we might be going out of business. Keep kind of the costs under control. The moment you know that if we lose revenue, we can also cut some of our costs, and we kind of stop the bleeding, and we're not on the verge of going bankrupt, then it's a lot easier to deal with your stress then. So just making sure that you have a way where you're not too aggressively growing, but you kind of need to look at how can you grow anyway with but in a way that kind of allows yourself to not end up in a poor financial situation. And then I think the personally biggest lesson for myself was make sure that you take the time to do all the administration, all the all the housekeeping of it, because whatever you don't do on time there, it does come back to haunt you. Those things don't disappear. At some point where things were the most stressful, I was very focused on serving our clients and thinking that, hey, as long as we make sure that the revenue is still there, we're fine. And I think looking back at some of it, I should have spent more time and more focus also on the administrative parts, also on the things like bookkeeping and keeping up with invoices and stuff like that. Because if they're not done on time, they come back, and when they come back, it's more work than it would have been originally.
Bookkeeping, very interesting.
Like I mentioned, it's not all of it is going to be fun.
Sure. I want to ask, you have marketing and sales. What is more important for you?
It's the two are so closely connected, right? I think that our best clients we got from marketing and from sales. Like it's I know clients that they're like, I know agencies that are similar to ours, but a lot larger, who almost ignored marketing altogether. They just worked like referrals, they just worked sales. I think that, yeah, and it's not completely true. Like if you look at their outreach as well, it was also very more marketing focused. There's no way to take away one from the other. And if you want to convert a good quality clients, and that's really what you want to focus on. You don't want to have a lot of clients. You want to have a few or to medium amount of really good clients. And to get those, you generally need both. You generally need that you have multiple decision makers inside a company, which means that you can sell however good you can sell to one person in there. They're going to go into a separate conversation with other people in their company, and they're going to need to try to convince those people that it's a good idea as well. It makes sense. And generally for that, they need to show something. They need to show your material. They need to show your website. They need to produce something that you have given to them. So you need a marketing part there as well. So I think that the original sourcing of potential clients, doesn't have to come from marketing, but there's so much of the sales support that's like sales enablement that is marketing, that is you just don't get away from doing. So you have to have those things in place as well. You can't say one or the other.
And what I observed is marketing is senior of selling. It means like if you build that personal brand and if you build that buzz around your company, right, then the sales or the prospects, potential clients are coming along the way, and the sales is easier to close.
Yeah.
So, and the same, Gary Vee is saying the same, like if you master marketing, the sales will follow like automatically.
I'm not so convinced about that necessarily. I agree. Marketing makes sales a lot easier, but for the best clients we have, that would not have been possible without sales. I think that it's hard and it's impossible to attribute percentages to them, but I would not put one in favor of the other. I would simply say that they do go hand in hand, and considering that inbound leads are a lot easier to sell to, and inbound leads come from marketing to the highest extent. It looks like marketing is more important in that case, because we had people who contacted us, who got in touch with us, who said, "Hey, I saw you doing this webinar." They were already convinced that we knew what we were talking about. Selling that to them was very easy.
Yep.
But that was not our best kind of client. So
interesting.
I would, yeah, you don't have to be great at sales. You just have to be knowledgeable of what you're doing and be able to talk about it in a way that's convincing. And yeah, maybe you need to be better at marketing, because you need to produce better material there. But definitely wouldn't say that one is more important than the other. And that's from someone who does marketing for a living.
I see this phase: marketing, communication, sales, and scaling. So the communication part we discussed is very crucial as well. Good. So I'm going to ask you this. Looking to the future, where do you see your agency is going, or where do you see your agency in a couple of years?
Yeah, like I mentioned, we didn't necessarily end up where I thought we would currently, but we have found ourselves in a quite good position. So we just had an internal workshop about this yesterday. So we spent quite a bit of time figuring out where is it actually that we're going. So for us, it's important to get better at what we're doing, and a big part of how we measure that is just the results that we're getting for our clients. So we have quite a few long-term relationships with some clients. We want to make sure that that's been really good for us. It's been really good for our clients. We want to make sure that becomes even better in the future. We want to grow as well, because I believe that from growth, a lot of other things it enables a lot of other things. I mentioned already that with more revenue, that enables you to do more things. It enables you to expand the team. It enables you to have more specialization in the team. It allows you to do more challenging of the processes that you're having, and basically enables you to get better, but also get better. So getting better just because the fact that you're more, but also because you bring in people who have a different way of looking at things, with different experiences, with different skills. So that's also part of what we want to do. And the growth comes from existing clients, and it comes from getting better clients. We kind of shifted our focus completely from let's get more clients to let's get more good clients, and that's basically what we're looking at. So over the next 12 months, we basically want to grow from a team of 4 people to roughly double that, and we have quite a few projects in place to measure a little bit of do we have the processes in place? Do we have the understanding of how we can expand there? Are we ready to take in new people or not? Or is like I mentioned, financial risk too big? Because I also do want to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, of course, it makes sense. Is there any final message you would like to give our listeners who would like to, for example, build their own agency or even end up in your specific niche that you are in?
Yeah, I think you do a lot of knowledge exchange, right? Find people who are doing similar things to what you're doing and talk to them often, recurringly, consistently, and make sure that you kind of use that to challenge what you're doing yourself. And then internally, either with yourself or with your team, and make sure that you have a recurring check-in where you look at the top level projects. You look at what can we actually do, and what will we do over the next month, the next quarter, that allows us to be better than we are currently in everything that we're doing. And because with agency work especially, it's so easy to get stuck in how do we improve this client now? How do we improve that client? How do we turn back the performance on this campaign? And there's a new client coming in. Okay, let's think about this. Let's come up with new creatives. Let's come up with new messaging around it. It's so much work on those angles that it's so easy to get stuck in the weeds. So make sure that you have a process that you check in monthly at the very least, kind of quarterly, and just on these things that what makes you as a team, as an agency, as professionals better over time, so that when you talk to a new client or existing client 6 months from now, you're able to provide more value to them than you're doing today.
Where can listeners find you?
The easiest way would just be to visit our website. There's ways to get in touch with us directly through our website as well. So it's jonas.com.
My last question, totally last question is, what is your opinion about the word, the DOER? DOER. Hopefully you know what is the DOER.
I'm not familiar with the book, so I might be misunderstanding the concept. But DOER for me is it's basically, I mean, taking action, right? There is all these things that you know that you need to do, and there's all these projects and thoughts that you have into like, what should we be doing? And it's basically just executing. It's basically just removing all the obstacles and just putting in place. I mean, basically just making sure that rather than thinking, okay, I need to respond to that, just write something and click send. So
Yes.
It's just getting something out there, which is extremely important. It is what is making the difference between a good idea and actually a result.
Great. Thank you for your explanation. And this is actually the book that I've written, and I would like to send it to you after this podcast. So I will ask you for the physical address. You are definitely doer, and I appreciate your time on this podcast. So it's been a great journey. I learned a lot, many notes. So thank you so much, Jonas. I wish you all the best for your agency, clients, team, etc. And I will be very happy to stay in touch with you.
Absolutely. Likewise. Take care. Ciao.
I hope you enjoyed the podcast. And here are my two biggest takeaways. Number one, Jonas' drive to flourish his agency and keep his knowledge and team's knowledge in their circle of competence is unbeatable. Number two, I did a quick research and found out that native advertising market in Europe has enormous growth potential. For example, according to Mobile Marketing magazine, the market in Germany will climb from 4.4 billion to almost 21 billion by 2025. And because Jonas' agency is based in Berlin, Germany, he has an enormous potential or opportunity to grasp a big market share. If you would like to reach out to Jonas, I put links below in the description. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.